This talk's going to be at Firebrand for GvG. I hope it's a comprehensive guide on how to play the class. Most of the things that I'm talking about relate also to just like open field, but there's some specific niches that are really important to GvG. Because this is an RP class, there are 4 tenets to playing Firebrand. Thou shalt give stability. Thou shalt res thy ally. Thou shalt halt thy enemy, and thou shalt heal thy ally. And those are roughly in the priority that they apply. Sometimes the last 2 will flip in order. You play it a little by ear. But first, we need to talk about the build of Firebrand and why everything does the way it does. So, there isn't a lot of room for compromise in the build. Just going over the traits that we have first. So we are in Honor versus Firebrand, and the first trait that we're going to have is Protective Reviver. This is going to put up a bubble around people when we try and res them. It's going to knock people back. It's going to create a little bit of healing. It's a good thing to do. The next... why is this not right on my other screen? Here we go. Now I can actually read things. But also really importantly is the minor right beside it. It's called Selfless Daring. The end of your dodge roll heals people. That means that you should dodge to heal. You have Pure of Heart. Aegis also heals. Very good. You apply Aegis through your shield and your Tome 3 and your heal metro. You have Pure of Body. F2 also generates endurance. That's going to apply more later. You have Pure of Voice. This is your cooldown reduced on Stand Your Ground. Stand Your Ground's a very good skill. You want to cast more of it, therefore you should take Pure of Voice. And then in Virtues, we have Master of Consecrations. We're playing a Consecration and we want that trait. The other traits in this specific slot kind of suck for support, so that's a really easy choice. Then we have the next one in Virtues, which is opening our F2 is going to cleanse 3 conditions from 5 people. It's very good. It's also a slightly stronger passive effect, and the other things in this trait line are also not useful for support. And then we get to the Grandmasters, and Battle Presence is always the option, partially because of that 15% endurance that I had talked about up in Honor, partially because it's just healing and it's going to account for maybe 20% of your total outgoing healing. Indomitable Courage is something to talk about, but that is for the other half of this slide. Then in Firebrand, we're playing double quickness traits because quickness traits are good and you generate quickness, and quickness is good for everyone, so you should generate more quickness. You also take Lore Mastery because you always take Lore Master in Firebrand, because then you can always have F2, and always having F2 is awesome. And then gear-wise, you're going to be in full Minstrels. That's not optional. You're going to be on Staff, Axe, Shield. There's a small argument for Mace, but I don't think it's good, and we'll talk about that later. And then rune-wise, you're usually going to be on Durability, and I guess we'll start talking about the compromise and the trade-offs. So first, Dura versus Mercy. Durability, you're going to have more boon uptime. You're going to have more spare resistance. However, due to a certain series of balance changes, that is a little bit less important, as resistance is a little bit more available right now. And then Mercy is just, it's going to let you hand res faster. However, hand resing isn't always the greatest option. I would say do primarily what your driver asks. That's always the most important. If you're newer to Firebrand, I would say Dura is a little bit of a nice safety net. It's really useful. And if you don't have legendary runes, or you only want to have one set of things, just go Dura because Mercy's garbage open field. But if you have the option of having 2 gear sets or legendary armor, and both rune sets are legendary runes, then it's more of an option. But again, do what your commander asks. Next, Axe versus Mace. Axe gives more CC, Mace gives a little bit more healing, a little bit more protection. CC is very good. That's all. CC is very good. Your Scrapper's also going to help with like protection uptime and stuff, depending on their traits. I don't think it's that valuable. You have protection on a bunch of other skills anyways. Invigorated Bulwark versus Protective Reviver. So these are the first traits up in Honor. So the first one, Invigorated Bulwark, is a passive heal modifier. It is 2% per stack for 5 stacks, so it's 10% outgoing healing, or it's extra help when hard rezzing allies. In open field, you're going to want to be playing Invigorated Bulwark because you aren't going to be hand rezzing so much. But if your commander is trying to go for more hand rezzes, then having Protective Reviver is going to be very, very useful. There once was an argument about Pure Voice versus Force of Will, but the jury has come back on that one, and casting Stand Your Ground more is just better. This is no longer optional. However, I could maybe see that if you are having a really hard time staying alive, it's a little bit of training wheels and could help a little bit out. In Virtues, there's a big debate about Battle Presence versus Indomitable Courage. Indomitable Courage says when you open F3, you get stability. The short answer is you shouldn't need this. You should have enough stability from other sources that you should not need Indomitable Courage. There's also the extra feels bad of if you happen to get CC'd while opening F3, because the stability happens on the opening of F3, the start of the cast, not the finish of the cast, and there's a cast time on it of a quarter second. If you get CC'd or corrupted in that quarter second, you lose your whole F3 book. That's like super duper feels bad, man. And also just like having everyone have 15% more endurance is awesome because dodging is evade frames, and evade frames are sick. The last thing is extra pages versus quickness. Based on how you should be playing Firebrand, the pacing of the skills, extra pages does not help you. You want to be going through your skills fast enough that you're out of a tone within 10 seconds tops. That's as long as you want to ever be in a tone, for as long as a weapon swap or less. And what that really means is you don't have time for extra pages, and more quickness with more cover boons is really important. Alright. So now we get to talk more about tenants. Thou shalt give stability. So your stability granting boons or skills. You have Stand Your Ground. You have Hollowed Ground, which is your consecration. Let me real quick switch over to switch screens, change windows, and we're gonna go to the whole screen. Come on, Discord. You can load. Oh, come on, sweetheart. Now if I go like this, aha, you can now see my game. This is wonderful. So, things that give stability. Stand Your Ground, Hollowed Ground, and then inside of F3, you have F3-5, and you have Stunbreaking mantra. This is Stunbreaking mantra, not stat mantra, Stunbreaking mantra. So those are your skills to apply stability, but what's more important than just applying the stability is keeping the stability on your allies. And to do that, we need to understand the boon order. So for regular boon strip, it is last on, first off. So if I go in my game here and I apply stability, and then this applies protection, resolution, and quickness in here, and I get immediately boon rip for 3 boons, it's going to take this protection, resolution, and quickness before it takes my stability. However, if I go and I apply, my stuff, and then I apply my stability, now that stability is on top, and just 1 tick of a null filter, 1 tick of a spellbreaker doing something unfun to you, and you can no longer play the game. So it is very, very, very important that you always cover your stability.
I have a question regarding this.
Yeah.
Does reapplication, so say you have 2 stacks of stability and you give yourself a 3rd stack, and does it become the top boon?
Yes.
Oh,
yes. Okay. Yeah. So the visual order that you see in your bar actually doesn't matter. So if I go and I put a ticking hollow down, this is going to tick boons, and then I go and I apply a bunch of boons. You see my stabs down here, but it's actually on every second, so it's at the top.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so it is not always the most intuitive, but it's just something to keep track of. And so sources of cover boons is the next important thing to talk about. You have just all of your symbols are ticking cover boons. That is their primary purpose, is ticking cover boons. Less so, I mean, everyone likes to have swiftness. I know it doesn't give resolution proper in PvE, so it did here for this specific example. Oh, everyone can see my screen, that's so fun. Yeah, so I have all of my symbols. Those will do good things here. I have my heal mantra. I should honestly just go into... I should go into world vs. world map, and I should look at world vs. world balance. That's what I should do. Alright. Yes, my protection, but it still applies quickness, which is very useful because of Liberator's Vow, which is especially why it's extra good over extra pages, because then I got bonus quickness. Because if I do this and then this, it's going to reapply quickness, but if I didn't have extra pages, it would first apply quickness on stability and then not on my Aegis, which makes it worse. So you're always going to want to apply, it's very common to see Stand Your Ground, Heal Mantra, and then Shield 4, and this is going to apply protection and quickness and Aegis on top of your stability. That's really common for first push. I also really like to cast Stand Your Ground in the middle of my Empower because I'm ticking Might, so that's going to be covered up really quickly. I'm happy to do this in just spamming symbols. I'm happy to have a ticking resist field down. I mean, resistance is good for a lot of other things, but it's also like better to get ripped than your stability. Yeah, so you have a lot of sources of cover boons. You should use them to help cover up your stability. That is their primary purpose. Next, Stunbreaking and mantras. So stun breaks in the game are very hard to get, and some players don't have them. Like your necromancers, if they're on Reaper, do not have a stun break. That's just how the build is. So you need to be listening, and hopefully your DPS players are calling that they need a stun break. So the way that mantras work is they have a symbol radius around you, and they have a much larger radius, so a 450, which is bigger than a hollowed, but yeah, it's about from me to this guy here. Let's have this chat box. I should be able to hit him from about, yeah, there. So it's about this far away, and this is directional, so I can directionally, my quickness was on, I can directionally give him this, but if I turn around, and then it's totally on cooldown, but I'll use a heal mantra, and we see it doesn't give him quickness there. So that is they're directional, but also not directional, because if I go and I stand close up here and I face away from him, he does still get it. So generally, if someone is calling out for a stun break, you should face them, but because it reaches far enough that if they're inside of a winds, if they're inside of a spike, you shouldn't need to walk up and stand a symbol's length away from them. You should be able to look at them and stand at them significantly farther away and keep yourself safe. Also, stun breaking. Elite mantra is stun break mantra. Elite mantra is not stab mantra. It is not small stab. That is the wrong mentality to have about this skill. You have enough stability in your other skills. Save at least 2 stacks of stun break mantra for stun breaking yourself and allies. It is paramount to how you play the class. The next thing I'd like to talk about is push versus pull style. So this is in relation to pushes and how you engage the enemy. So there are 2 main ways to go about playing Firebrand with stun breaks and stability and cleanse and stuff. So the first most important, well, the first is the push style. So I'm going to be a little bit towards the back of my group. I'm going to make sure everyone has their boons together. I'm going to have my shield 4. I'm going to, because this is a cone in front of me, I'm going to put a cone out in front of me. Now they have protection and Aegis, and I'm going to give them extra cover boons on top of my stab, and I'm going to roll through towards the back of the group. This is fundamentally a more risky strategy, although it can be a little bit easier to follow. The other style is a little bit more involved, and it is the pull style. So if there is a bomb somewhere, I'm going to call it here, the first thing that I need to do is I need to apply something close enough to me. So I'm going to have a heal mentor or something, or some stability, and I'm going to get through, and then I'm going to immediately turn around. And it is this act of going through, and then you pull your allies through the bomb. You go and you look, is anyone getting caught? Do I need to use a Stunbreak measure? And it's being very proactive in how, sorry, it's not being proactive, it's being incredibly reflexive, and it's observing very carefully if you are needed to do something there. And you can only do that by staying in a very safe position, which is going to be on the far side of the bomb. I hope that makes sense. People can ask me more if that doesn't make sense. The last thing on this slide is general stability flow. And the general flow that I'm going to try and push is you should always engage with stand your ground. It's a very long duration stab. It's almost 10 seconds. So I'm going to press my stab, and I'm going to fight for a little bit more than the first push. We're going to get through, we're going to get to the other side, and then we're going to get ready to push again. And I say that we should push with hollowed ground. And then we come through and we push with hollow ground, and we get to fight through this, and we get to walk through this, and we get to go through. And honestly, there's enough stability in here if we are moving slow enough that we are fine with some extra ages. If they aren't aggressing immediately onto us, we have enough time to wait for a stand your ground again. And then we can do that, and then we can wait for our F3, and then we can take the fourth push with F3. With enough usage of Aegis and protection and maybe a Rev Road or something other weird and wonky going on like that, I think there is ample opportunity to not have to go into F3 immediately after Hollow. Maybe this is where you want to use one Stunbreak mantra to just try and keep people together while you're waiting that last second or so for a stand your ground to come up, if they're pushing early. And then after you go into F3, then you should hopefully get enough time that you can get back into stand your ground, and then hopefully you can stretch it out enough to get back into hollowed, etc., etc. And you kind of loop out of there. That said, it's very important to try and read what's going on in the fight and realize, are they pushing us? Are we pushing them? And listening to your commander is also very, very important for this. If they're calling out a push, you should be looking, okay, is this a good time to cast hollowed ground on this kind of a push? Or are we going to walk up? Are we going all the way through? Are we stopping somewhere? Are we coming back? Are we bombing our feet and walking backwards? Or however your different commander is going to play that out. It's all important. So yeah, just do this. Notification is going to actually drive me insane. Just press the stability buttons, but also be conscious of, do I need stability right now? And the answer is, if you're within 1200 range of an enemy, yes. But sometimes you can get a little bit out of it if you're like, okay, we have Aegis, or like there's like a Rev Road, and there's like some light pulsing ambient stab, or I'm keeping a close eye on them. I know I can stun break them, or you're keeping a close eye for any chrono pulls. That, of course, is going to depend how busy the floor is, if you can see that or not. I think I rambled enough about stability for now. Let's talk about the next thing. Let me just pull this over here. Thou shalt res thy ally. Let's talk about res utility and hand resing. So, first off, watching for downs. A Firebrand is always going to be in party view, because then you can easily see who's caught behind, and you can check, do they have stability, which is more important. If you're like, oh, I see this person's getting hit, do they have stability? That said, you don't always necessarily have the mental capacity to check if they have stability, but it's nice to see if you're like, an earlier example is if I'm waiting that extra second or so for a stab, does like most of my party have stab by one way or another? If yes, then I could probably wait. If not, then I have to think, do I want to risk that? And you should always lean towards risk less. So you aren't necessarily going to see the down all the time in your party or in your squad view because there just won't be in your party. In this case, it's very much about keeping an active eye on the field, and a lot of camera movement is really, really important. You generally want to have your camera always on the enemy, and some of that means that it's going to be a little bit less on your allies, but hopefully you still get a good chunk of your allies in there. The other really good way to find out about someone being down is if they call it. So if you happen to go down, please call it out in voice, or at least like a say chat X if you're really not about using voice comms. But just as a Firebrand, then you need to be very looking out for that chat X, or looking out, listening out for your allies to be being like, just they need help. And oftentimes you're going to hear a little bit of a prerequisite to them going down, or sometimes they'll be saying, I'm caught, or I need help, when they have just hit down. So there's naturally a bit of human delay in there. So as soon as you hear someone saying something that's signaling to a supportive, I need help, or I need a stun break, or I need a cleanse, even if you hear cleanse, you're not thinking, I'm not a scrapper. Still, you need to be paying attention because they might be going into downstate, and you need to pay extra close attention to that. Let's talk about getting the cast off. So I'm going to talk a little bit about range combat stuff things here. So first, ground targeting. Your ground targeting should be either instant or fast with range indicator. This is so all of your range things just take one less button press to cast. If I am on instant, the very moment that I press my Alt 2 here, my hollow is going to cast. There is no range circle on the ground, whereas if I go fast with range indicator, then as long as I hold this, it's there, and then when I release it, it casts. So generally, you want to be on either instant or fast with range indicator. If you're a little bit less familiar with the range of things, then fast with range indicator is going to be more useful for you. But instant is just that little bit faster because it's like the start of the button press rather than the end of the button press. But it's something to work towards. Other things in just the combat section while I'm here. Turn off auto targeting. Just turn off melee attack assist. Always have lock ground target at max skill range. This is very useful if I'm in my fastest range indicator. I can go like this and it stops moving forward. That's very useful. Allow skill retargeting is useful for other classes, but that's just a general thing. The other thing I'm going to point out is going to be in camera. All of these sliders, the vertical position near far field of view and zoom sensitivity should be maxed out. This is just going to let you see as much of the screen as possible. But the other really important thing to get used to is free camera or something like this, and the other useful thing is having a look behind keybind all the way down in the camera section. Mine is like this, and this way, if I see someone casting, the other thing that you need bound is an about face keybind. Mine's bound to F because about facing is more important than interacting with things. Basically, if I go and I cast a Signet somewhere, the way that Signet of Mercy works is it will not move from where the cast started, which means that I can move anywhere else so long as I do not cancel that cast. So I can go and I can cast Signet of Mercy. It's going to be a little blue circle on the ground. You see it there, and I can run all the way away and it will still go off all the way away there. So this means that if there is a fight going on in this general vicinity, I can make a squad here. That's what I can do. And then I can make squad markers. Oh, that's so fun. Is if there is some kind of fight there, I can be moving away around it while my Signet is casting, and I can stay very safe, because the worst thing that happens is if I'm casting a Signet and I get interrupted because I'm delaying the next Signet going off by up to 2 seconds. That said, you should always give yourself quickness with a heal mantra when casting Signet, and you should always try and make sure you have stability. And I would burn a stab mantra for stab, if you're casting a Signet, because you really, really don't want that to get cancelled. So the third point here is the calling and cancelling section. So when you start casting Signet, you should be yelling it out in voiced. My sig, or something related to that, or Signet, or Rezzing, whatever, something loud and repeated. So as many of your allies understand that you are pressing Signet of Mercy as soon as possible. And then it becomes everyone else who has res utilities' job to listen for rupted or cancelled or something where you can no longer cast that Signet, and then it becomes their problem. And the other thing is, if I start casting a Signet and I hear someone else is already yelling it out before me, I want to cancel. So there are a couple of ways to skill cancel, but because of how Firebrand works, there's only really one valid one. So you can always skill cancel by dodging. That is the worst option, because that costs a dodge. You can usually skill cancel by stowing your weapons. You see my weapons get stowed here. That's a weapon keybind. That should be down in miscellaneous. Squad miscellaneous. Stow draw weapons. And then the most important one is going to be escape. So the reason that this matters so much is because if you are in a tome, this counts as a bundle within the game. You cannot weapon stow a bundle. Therefore, you must cancel with escape. If I cancel with escape, it still cancels. If I cancel with a dodge, it still cancels. If I cancel with stow, as much as I spam it, it will not go. I had to weapon swap out of it there. Weapon swap will also do it, but that costs you your weapon swap. That's bad. The last thing is when to hand res. The short answer is when your driver calls for it. The long answer is almost always when your driver calls for it. Sometimes a little bit more, sometimes a little bit less. If there is something that is going to kill you for standing on top of the body, don't be there. You're looking out for wells, you're looking out for power warriors spinning on it. Things that are going to kill you very quickly, you just cannot get caught by. There is no reason to go and stand on top of a downstate to go stand in like 4 different wells and just explode. But if someone is off of stack, if someone's illusion of life is timing out, that's like, then you know when they're going to go down faster than the enemy knows down, and you can spam F. And the thing is, if you have 4 players with Mercy runes, so it's 3 Firebrands and a Mesmer, they're gonna get up really quickly. So like there is like some viability to it. Just the answer of when to hand res is it's rarely your call to make. Sometimes it is, often it's not. Next step. Thou shalt halt thy enemy. Well, this character has a mace right on. I think that's because I was playing Shattered Aegis or something. Yeah, this is... Nope. This one. This one? Can I have a staff, please? Alright. So you have 4 CC skills on Firebrand. So your first is going to be your axe pull. This is a 900 range pull. Sorry, this is a 600 range pull. Whoops, I can speak. And it's going to go out, and it's going to pull on the way back in. So there's a little bit of a delay, but it's not that long of a delay. And most important, it's just going to pull people on top of you, on top of your person. Because of that, be careful using this pull on engages, because the worst thing that you can do is pull the target out of someone else's spike. Namely, it's going to be your Daredevil's vault. That's going to be like the worst outcome is, I pull this guy right to my feet, and now he's in a spot where there's no wells and there's no vault landing and there's no like axe for something going off there, and just like, and now they're alive still. That's the worst. So this is really good to use to pull back into a Winds of Disenchantment. This is really good to use to pull back into wins. So it's a lot more of you want to pull people back into damage you've placed. Or if they're actively pulling away from us, we want to pull them back in. This is a little bit less of an us aggressing on them pull. This is more of a them retreating from us pull, if that makes sense. The next one that I want to talk about is F1. So in F1, you're going to press 3, and then you're going to drop it. That's like the only skill that you're going to press in F1. You're going to open F1, press 3, drop it. This is a pull into the center. Because this is a 900 range pull with a 240 pull radius, you can pull very far away with it. You can almost pull 1200 range, which is a lot. And because of this pull can be used very aggressively. And because it keeps them in place to the pull as well, it's a lot safer to use on aggressive maneuvers. So this is a little bit more of an aggressive pull. The next one to talk about is staff line. And so this here is a line of warding. This is good to, again, use in Winds of Disenchantment. This is particularly good in Winds because it is harder for people to apply stability in Winds. That said, like, not that much harder anymore because it's just minus 33%, but like, regardless, it's still very good in there because that's an active boon rip zone. It is still actively ripping boons, and there's a higher chance they won't have stability, and most importantly, people cannot dodge through a line of warding. So that's going to be really important. I have something that I want to talk about later with lines, but that's now 30 seconds away, so instead I'm going to talk about F3. Inside of F3, you have F3-2. This is a taunt. So I think this is one of the more underrated skills of F3, Tom. Basically, this is going to taunt 5 people within a short radius. So if we are moving through them, if we're in F3, we're naturally doing a push. That's how we want to flow through it for stab anyways. So if we go and we do a 4 or 5, and now like we're on top of them, I'm very happy to use a 2 and then to just like 1-1 out or something, or wait for a 4 again. And what that's going to do is it's just going to create extra CC pressure, which is very, very, very important. But again, it's going to keep them tight on where we're moving. This is a taunt. It's going to move them towards you, but because of how you use F3 and its small radius, it's naturally going to be in a favorable way for you. So the line thing that I wanted to mention is using instant cast. If I place down a line somewhere and then I rotate my character, it will place in a way such that it is facing forward of where my character is. So if I go and I look like this and then I move sideways, it will place like this. This is very important. This means that I can go and I can place lines in front of chokes. I can place lines always to hit the most number of people possible and always against their direction of movement. So if they wanted to go around it, they need to go as far around it as possible and take as much time and have more and more chance to get hit by with another CC and then just get killed. I had a blurb on here about engages. So engage CCs, if you have an advantageous engage, often using a CC is good. There are 3 different CCs that you can think about using on engage. The first is line. Line is good if you are very, very early to their team and you think that you can get to them before they apply stability. If you can throw it at 1200 range line and you can split their stack in half, that's very powerful. That's going to kill someone. F1 pull. F1 pull is less powerful because it's just a pull and it can be stun broken. It's not as big of a deal. However, just a little bit of extra CC to pull people into an opening spike is really easy. And because of the relatively low cooldown on F1 compared to some other things, like it's going to be up in like 3 weapon sets, it's not as big of a commitment as some other things, especially because it's always there and it's always available. It's worth thinking about. Like line's also 30 seconds, but I can only have it in staff, so it feels a little bit longer. Axe pull is going to be the worst pull to use on engage. You're oftentimes just going to pull people at that spike like I was talking about earlier, and that's just bad. You don't want to do that. I think I'll take a little bit of time to talk more generally about engages. You should almost always engage on Axe Shield. The reason for this is if I engage, then I get to engage with the Shield 4. So I get extra cover boons on first cross through protection. And then I can come through and I can dodge through the first bomb. And then once we're through the first bomb and we've triggered a bunch of cooldowns there, now I can pull people back into it. Now is a better time rather than before the cross. Now after the cross I can pull into. That's very good. And then I can either use an Axe 2 if I think I have time, or I can swap directly into staff. And then I can throw out a line if I think that's going to be good. And then I can empower right away and get those 12 stacks of might. So tasty. Big heals. Do important, impactful things. The fourth tenet that I had here was thou shalt heal thy ally. So, this means both raw heals and cleanses. So first thing I want to talk about is blast finishers. Your staff 2 is a blast finisher, very useful. It's an 8-second blast finisher, super useful. So if I put down my my symbol here and then I blast it, I'm going to get an area condition cleanse. So that's going to cleanse 5 conditions total. So if I get just 5 conditions every, not quite 8 seconds, because I'm going to be swapping and I'm not always going to have it up, but it's a non-trivial number of conditions cleansed. Because of how field priority works, if I put down my own light field, I will always get it. So long as I don't put down a fire field before then, because if I do this and then I do this, I will get area might. Excuse me, game. Very tricky. I don't understand that. I don't know what just happened there. That's weird. That's funny. I'm gonna just ignore that. Lol. Next important skill, empower. Empower has a 600 radius. 600 radius is big. Like that's like banner radius. Like we see those big banner fields now that we started playing with them so much from Overworld. Like it's far. Like I think I should be able to hit him from here. Not quite. All right, whatever. I usually have sorry. All right, there's my Virtue of Resolve, and that is also a 600 radius. I was just off. We'll forgive that. I'm playing in windowed mode. Nothing looks real. So I can be this far away. So again, this means that I don't have to be taking a lot of damage. I don't need to be standing in a dangerous position to pump out significant heals. A full empower is going to heal for about 5k. It's just like really good and it's very free, and you should empower almost off cooldown, but you should put it, you should do it in a place where you're not going to take too much damage and you're not going to be excessively caught behind. So you need to be aware of, is my group about to push right now? And then it's like, do I have like the second and a half with empower, you know, with quickness to empower here? That's really important too. I got some water. Love water. Aegis. So we have our heal on Aegis trait here. And what this means is Aegis is mostly going to feel like residual healing. You should not really be spamming Aegis as an attempt to heal. A Firebrand is more of a boon support. There's a reason this is the 4th tenet and not the first one. So because of that, you want to use Aegis more as a method of applying quickness, as a method of getting an extra boon on there, and as a method of just preventing a little bit of extra damage. But again, like it's not the priority, because if I have my heal mantra, this applies quickness. If I have my shield 4, this applies protection. Those are both cover boons that are more valuable than the, like, what is this, 700 healing? Yeah, 750 healing from the Aegis. Talking about F2. So because of how F2 works with the Absolute Resolve skill, we cleanse 3 conditions upon opening F2. This means that F2 is fundamentally a reactive skill. you will look at your party here in your squad, and you'll be like, do people have a lot of conditions? Yes, no. Are people immobed? Is this really heavy immob bomb? Are we just taking a lot of pressure? F2 is one of those things where you want to go into it a little bit more reactively, whereas F3 you want to go into it very proactively. So when I go into my F2, I get my 3 cleanses. I get some cover boons, lovely, hooray. And then I'm always going to want to press 5 first. Sure, this feels like a very long cast time in relation to some other skills. However, 8 seconds of plus 20 incoming heal effectiveness is hugely powerful. Plus it's going to cleanse 2 boons on 5 people, again with that massive 600 radius. And then we have the much smaller, I can cleanse 1 condition, I can heal a little bit, I can have this nice big pulsing heal field, which is a water field I can do, again, things with. And then I have my 3 skill. This is some really valuable cover boons that you're not going to find. Vigor is one of the more rare ones. Like, it just like appears when you play Scrappers. I'm not entirely sure it's like the magic of purity of purpose, but having some dedicated vigor here is actually quite useful. Aside from that, in the rest of F2, if I go 5, then I want to go 4, 2, and then if I need heals, I'm going to 1 out. If I need cover boons, I'm going to 3, 1 out, and you're going to go through this tome fairly quickly. And just, I don't know if I talked about F3 rotations, just either 5-4 or 4-5, depending on what you need, because 4 is a lot quicker to get off, but 5 has a longer cooldown, so you think like either way, then you dodge through, and then you either 2 or 3, depending on if you need reflex or not. And then either I'm looking to 1 out, or if I have enough time, I think I can 4 or 5 again. That's all. Shield 5. Shield 5 is a good burst heal. It's going to heal for about 1500 on 5 people. However, this is a very powerful reflect. So if you're playing against a group that is playing liches, then you're thinking, this is an anti-lich button. This is no longer a heal because lich autos hit for like 5k, so even blocking one of those is worth like the entire shield of absorption. Especially when you then consider that lich autos pierce and you can hit multiple people. So I'm just going to hold this then for its full duration against liches, and then always make sure that you explode it to get that heal off. Another interesting thing is I didn't count Shield 5 in the CC section because it is a knockback. The point of CCs is to bring people into the damage. If I'm knocking people back, they're going to be knocked out of the damage. Please don't use Shield 5s on offensive maneuvers. Please. You'll knock enemies out. We finally get to CC single target, and then we knock them away and they're out of range of all of our melee DPS, and they get to walk away. Do not Shield 5 offensively. Alright. And then the bonus one, the overarching sentiment, to support, thou canst not die. And this is just a little bit about staying alive as a Firebrand. As the meta has changed and we have things like even like Blood Bank coming into play, Firebrands are one of, if not like the best targets, I'm gonna say, especially as we don't have Cleanse Matcher on our bar anymore, because we need our stability, we need our Res Signet. We don't have reactive cleanse aside from our F2, which has like cast time, so if we get like chain CC'd, it is very possible and able to lock down a Firebrand and just kill them. That happens. So dodging, you should always be dodging. Well, sorry, not always be dodging. Actually, the opposite. You should dodge exactly when you need to and not more than that. But you also want to keep in mind to respect your energy sigils. You should be playing an energy sigil on both weapons because this is a power staff. Whoa. Which one has... That one does. Energy, yes. Energy, yeah. So both your weapons are going to have energy sigils, so then when you dodge in combat, you can then weapon swap and get another dodge. You can use this to take dodges through things, and also because your dodge heals, you can dodge in a meaningful direction and then weapon swap. You almost always want to be weapon swapping off cooldown because both you should be going through your skills fast enough that makes sense to do, and you should be wanting those dodges enough, and you want to maximize the cooldown of those energy sigils. General positioning. No, I'm not free. General positioning. I'm going to mute this chat just for a second. Don't need more things popping up. Right, general positioning. The idea is think like your mantra cone. You want to be about mantra cone behind commander. That's like a very good baseline place to be. The more you get thinking into fights, you want to be a little bit not at the front, not all the way at the back either. That was like the push-pull style I was talking about at the very beginning. And you don't want to be standing in red circles. That's like almost the more important part, is you want to stay fairly close to tag, not standing in red circles. And that will dictate kind of like 95% of where you can and can't go. Camera positioning, I talked about this a little bit earlier, but again, you want to be always keeping the enemy in your sights, so you know that's going to influence when can I dodge, when do I need to dodge, which direction's good to dodge. Are they pushing on top of us? Do I need to use defensive things? Do I need to put like hollow at our feet, or do I think we're going to push through them? All of those things you need to stay informed of. Am I about to get killed, to know what defensive cooldowns you need to use. Self stun breaks. You should save your last stun break mantra fairly selfishly. There are going to be cases where you are going to spend that stun break for an ally, but you just need to be extra careful then that you're in a safe spot, because you no longer have that self stun break. I will say, yes, stand your ground is a stun break. However, you want to make sure your party's in range of that. And F3-4 is your other self stun break. That's only really useful if you're in F3 and you get stunned, because you can't go into F3 while stunned because that has a cast time. Self Condi cleanse. We have our blast finishers here. That's going to be a little bit of self Condi cleanse, but your panic self Condi cleanse is always going to be F2. It's going to cleanse 3 Condis, 5 Condis, 6 Condis. I can now probably walk again, and then I can dodge to safety. How to know if you're target. This is really useful. When you're playing the game, you usually have a lot of boons. If for some reason you stop having boons, that is a reason to become alarmed. One of the fastest ways to figure out am I being single targeted is a lot of just stray boon rip is going to land on you, and you're going to start feeling a little bit of pressure on you before it all comes raining in. Some groups are very, very tight about this. Other groups, you're going to feel it with a little bit of a bigger time lag. Just the faster you keep notice of that, it's worth noticing. Also, if you get caught out of position, there's a decent chance that target is going to switch to becoming you, and you should be extra careful of that. If you get CC'd out of position, you should expect maybe I'm going to get a little bit of extra focus on me. If you do something to become target, you may become target, but also, just keeping a look at your boons and keeping a look at your HP. If you get suddenly chunked by a lot, like if I eat a vault or something, I'm thinking maybe I'm target. Good luck, Luxslayer. I hope you kill all the bad men. How not to die as target. The first most important thing is to dodge. The second most important thing is to dodge in a meaningful direction. That means not into their stack. This means you want to put our group between them and you. So then there's more people, there's more damage on them, and just more of that damage is going to get spread to your allies. You're going to feel a little bit less of that single target. The other thing you need to be doing is yelling out in comms, because the most important and impactful thing that can happen is if you say, I'm target, I'm target, I'm target, and then your scrapper says, stealthing you, and now you're not target. It's like magic. So you really need to respect also listening for your scrappers when you're target, because if they stealth you, you want to wait a couple of seconds before putting out a damage packet. So that's either going to be a ticking symbol or a holy strike or a shield force, because those will deal damage. However, if I have something like just my dodges or my heal mantra or something like that, that's not going to deal damage packets. So if there is a stealth coming for me, maybe I want to ride that out. Or if I notice I'm in stealth, I don't want to instantly break that stealth while I'm still out of position. I want to amalgamate back to the stack, get lost in the sauce, and then I'll be totally okay again. Yeah, so use your dodges, remember your energy sigils, remember your reactive tomes, remember your self-stun breaks, and try and position and try and get stealth. What to do if you die? Again, you can still get stealthed in downstate, so do not attack things in downstate. Either you will get a piece of resutil on you, you will get hand-rezzed, you will get stealth and hand-rezzed, you will get stealth. I thought I muted that. You will get stealthed, and this is a different chat. I need to mute this one too. No. You will get stealthed and resutil, stealth and hand res, etc. Or you will just get cleaved out and you will die, and that is life. No, don't do that. Don't do that. That's not what I wanted. And then we move on. Aha! Footage. I love footage. Woohoo! Hooray! Footage. This is... I get to minimize this window now here. Oh yeah, look at that grainy thing. Come on, you can play. You can do it. Alright, we mute comms here. So this is footage of... We're fighting some EU guild. Can I have HD, please? Can you actually be HD? Yeah, there we go. Alright, so here we see, so they're out of stealth, we're out of stealth. This is an even engage. So then we go through, that line was really bad, etc. And then we come through, so we get a first down here. I look through and I see Callus here is very low, so empowering is good healing here. I'm going to get that cast off. I'm going to use a weapon swap here. Now there's a winds. I want to follow this up with a CC. So we have our party target, so that's what I'm going to be focused on, even though there was a target elsewhere. You can see they already got stealthed. So now there's 7 seconds of my weapon tome, and now I need to do something else. I was thinking about going for an F1, but I ended up dodging for some reason. Winds, dodge out of the winds in a meaningful direction, so this is towards our group. And then here, I thought we were going to push in. Second winds came up, so unfortunately I lose this hollow ground here. And we come out, and I keep my camera looking on them. This was a big advantage of using about face, is I can keep my camera on them even as I'm moving away from them. I never have to take my camera off the enemy. So now that it's like this, I can go get it a staff 2. I can now push back in with hollowed, because that's a really bad F2. I should be an F1 here. Lol. We come through. That's not very useful. I want to symbol blast here, get an extra cleanse off. I want to throw out a line here, get some extra CC on this push. Here I'm looking for a place to empower, so I'm going to dodge over to this side. It's a little bit safer. I actually get lined. I Stunbreak mantra, but then we're okay. And then I'm looking to weapon swap and then F1. A small note about tomes is tomes don't share cooldowns with your weapon swap. So I should always weapon swap before going into a tome if I'm going to go into a tome, so I can get started on that weapon swap cooldown a little bit earlier. Just so then I can go through weapons faster, which is good. More buttons faster. So here I want an extra pull, F3 drop. I can do this and then I can pull on top of this, get a little bit of extra healing. And then I'm feeling pretty happy, pretty healthy. Push in with F3 here. That was kind of where I'm at in my stab rotation. And we come forward and then we get the taunt and then everyone's dead and they get a big illusion here. We see that their catalyst here is actually in vapor form, so we're just going to stay on this one. Here we dodge through, again, get healthy. Started casting that signet, however someone else started calling that, and therefore they get up. and then get extra sig here, and drive our rallies. We're chilling. Big line, swap, pull, and that's that round. So everything just like kind of it comes together. It feels always a little bit chaotic. I swear it's not always chaotic. I'm not watching this whole 18 minutes, by the way. I think I'm watching like the first 3 or 4 rounds. So here, very important thing that happened is their warrior came out on us. So he revealed himself. That's usually by having a nullification sigil on something. So on hit is going to rip a boon, which then deals damage and takes them out of stealth. If you're a spellbreaker, don't have nullifications on the weapons you're revealing on, otherwise you'll reveal yourself, and that is bad. That's a totally different part. Anywho, but we see, more importantly, we see a Daredevil. Daredevil does not go out for reveal, so this is their actual stack. So now we're going to engage on this other person who's probably with their actual stack here, and then I can do a safe F1 engage here. And that's just going to pull, and that pulls them back into the damage. And then I felt like I had a little bit of extra time there, so I went to throw out a couple of extra skills. And then we dodge through, turn around, pull back into this winds. And then I can swap right into staff. I can get a line on the end of that winds again. And then I can push through here. Then we can push him with hollowed. Took a little bit of extra chunk there. I'm looking at my HP. I'm feeling okay. I was thinking maybe I need to... Yeah, there's the Signet. So actually what happened there is our Tempest, who is this top pianist here, was calling them they were going to go down, so I was just waiting for them to go down, and then there they are, because the Tempest usually has first Signet with their glyph, because it is retargetable. However, if the Tempest goes down, then obviously someone else needs to get that. So it's just like I'm positioning myself on the outside edge of our group here so I can get that Signet off. And then we come in, and then we press all of the F2 buttons, give a little bit of extra support, as that was a fairly damage-intensive clash. And I want to do things here. I want to do this. I want to weapon swap. I want to shield 4. I want to pull back in. I want to go F1 or something. Maybe go F3 instead to keep pushing. I missed pressing with the ground there because I'm bad. And then we come through, we press all the buttons, and now we're just looking to pretty much wrap this up. And that is that round complete. And we come forward and we see them out again. And so here I'm again looking to take an engage in F1. I get CC'd out of this here. I need to drop this F1 faster. I don't. And here we come through. Our winds comes up. A little bit of extra cleanse from the healer from the shield. Anywho, and now we're just looking to take a useful second push here. So we get Stunbreak. I get CC'd here, so I'm looking to Stunbreak myself. And then I see that my Chronomancer here is still stuck, so I walk up and I Stunbreak them again. Now I'm out of Stunbreak matches. There's another one coming up soon, but I have to be really careful with how I'm playing. We see I'm here on the outside edge empowering, and now I can push in, and I'm looking to move in with F3 soon when I'm out of stab. I should press the button now. There we go. There's F3. We come in with resistance, a little bit of extra CC, and then I just want to 1-1 out on top of the group here. I'm a little bit at the trailing edge of the group here, but now I get CC'd over. I'm careful about myself. We look around. We start catching that big look behind Signet. He gets up, he rallies, so I've got the cancel off. And just stand in an okay spot, come a little bit to a safer spot, and then CC, and that's the round. I hope that gives some focus on things, yeah? I think I'm going to stop looking at footage there. And then I go like this. No, don't do that. Yes. Questions. That's the last slide. Hooray. You can either chat in community chat or anywhere really. If you have questions, you can unmute and just ask questions.
A question about the instant cast settings you talked about at the beginning.
Yes.
You said that instant cast or what's the other one? Fast with range indicators. Yep. You said those were both okay for Firebrand.
Yes.
I have a couple players who prefer to play on fast with range indicators, but when they play like Tempest and Chrono, I only know how to do the retargeting interaction on instant cast. Is there a way to do the retargeting?
No.
To move glyphs and stuff with fast
No.
with range indicators?
So the reason that it's okay on Firebrand is because you cannot retarget glyphs, so you cannot retarget signets, but you can
Right.
retarget glyphs, so that needs to be on instant cast. Yeah.
Okay, so you were saying both of those settings are fine on Firebrand because they
Yes.
don't have any special
Yes.
interactions with it.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Appreciate it.
Any other questions, things, doohickers? Going once. Going twice. Alright, I think I will adjourn things there. Thanks so much, everyone, for listening.
All right, thanks, Sata.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Alright.
Thank you, sir.